So welcome. Allow me to start the session so that we keep time. All right. I'd like us to keep time. Let me just put this out. I'd like us to keep time. I am in India and I need to catch a flight tonight. I had to do this today because I've realized a lot of you have been reaching out to me about relationships. And I thank God that, I sit in where I have experience and I'd really like to pass this to you, at this level where I am, without really charging. We're going to be talking about the pillars of relationships. You're going to be talking about the pillars of relationships. If you know someone who's struggling in a relationship, please invite them. They need to hear it. And the good thing about YouTube is that we can always go back and, listen through and through. So there's so many guys, there's so many pillars that, form any great relationship. But before I even start, let me say this. Why do I have this push, to discuss this with us? Okay. When I got married, as I always say, I was very young. And I realized that, that immaturity interfered with the way I was viewing my relationship, the way I was viewing myself, and how I was relating with my husband and the family. So today, my three main objectives is, first of all, to grow you. Remember, this is the first pillar that we are going to be discussing about yourself. I don't like it when people come and say, my husband, when you're pointing fingers and saying, it is my husband, it is my house help, it is my mother, it is, pointing that figure. In every relationship, you are the one who remains constant. In every relationship, you sit in the middle, all right? The people who surround you may come and go. Taking, for example, some of us have dated boyfriends. They came in and left. Okay? You are left there in the middle. Someone else came through. So I really love to focus on you as a person, because once you're able to understand yourself and you grow yourself, you will be able to be stable even when the environment around you is very unstable. So key thing, we need to grow this person who's listening to me. We need to grow this person who wants their marriage to work. We need to grow this parent who feels they're in a conflict with children, because relationships are the core structures on which we stand as human beings. When God was creating us, he had this one motive: to help us to live in the Garden of Eden and to relate with him. So relationship is something that God had in mind when he was forming us, when he was shaping us. All right. The second thing is we need to be functional. Without you understanding yourself, it is very, very easy for you to be unstable. It is very, very easy for you to be dysfunctional. Why are we having people, very interested in narcissism? It is because a lot of us are finding ourselves with spouses who are narcissistic. All right? We are finding ourselves, handling or being handled by spouses who are very, very narcissistic. Okay? So it becomes very difficult to thrive in such relationships where there's a lot of dysfunctionality. If you're new to my channel, please check out my video on narcissism. It will give you a very good, understanding as to how people behave when they have what we call personality disorders. All right. And the third one, of course, if you're going to grow and you're going to be functional, ideally, you'll be a very, very happy person. Guys, I always say anything that does not grow is headed towards death. So if you're in a relationship that is not showing any form of growth, then we know where it is ended. We are here because at the end of the day, we want to see results. We are longing to be in a place where we can say, I am happy, being in this relationship. I am happy, functioning in this relationship. Okay. So I want to start with a quote, that is just, from a very interesting guy called Oscar Wilde. He says, "A man who does not think for himself does not think at all." If you're in a relationship and you are not thinking, then you are not thinking at all right? If you're not thinking for yourself, then that means you're not thinking. Okay, let me give you the most interesting statistics. According to Forbes, 95% of people think they are self-aware, according to Forbes, but only 10 to 15% are. That is the true picture that we have today. What does that mean? We have a lot of us, functioning, not functioning, but being in relationships where we think we are playing a role, where we think we know ourselves, where we think that things are okay. Yet that is not the true picture. Okay? Globally, and I will start with the United States of America, 20 people are abused by their partner every single minute. Guys, these statistics are shocking. 20 people every single minute are abused by their partners. Can you imagine? Every minute. Those are very alarming statistics. What does it mean? It means that a lot of us are very unhappy in our relationships. It means a lot of us are very dysfunctional in our relationships, and a lot of us wish that they could go out. I always say that, marriage is very weird. The people who are outside, the people who are single, they really want to come in, okay, into the marriage. And those who are married, they really want to get out by all means. Now, when we go back down to Africa, it means we have been told that 51% of African women experience beatings from their husbands. 51%. Okay. I am not, I'm not trying to be biased, but, generally you can see I have approached this from, the point of being, figures that are there generally, how many people are abused in relationship. And we can see it's 95%. So my talk today will be centered on helping you to meet, that desire that you have to thrive in a relationship. Now, let's go down to now the real juice of this talk. Okay. What makes an individual? Someone the other day asked me, by the way, what does Mindspa mean? Mindspa is the mind, the spirit, and the physical aspect meeting in a place of awareness. All right. You might think you are okay physically, being you, being Venus, being whoever you are. But remember, we must acknowledge we have someone who created us. We have a creator, and that is God. So, I'm in India. Indians, the kind of religion they have. But at the end of the day, we all have very different belief system when it comes to our spirituality. Now, guys, what I always say is, you cannot move away from your root. For me, God is source. And every time I have had issues, not only in my marriage, but with people around me, my place of refuge has been on my knees where God listens to me, where I find refuge. So what I'm trying to say, without really delving much into the spiritual aspect, because I'm sensitive that there are people who do not like, discussing about the spiritual aspect. What I just need to say is that you must be able to acknowledge the force, your creator. You must be able to have the number one relationship with this being who brought you on this earth and gave you the opportunity to experience earth, the journey of life, the journey of marriage, the journey of parenting. Okay. But when we come now down to the psychological aspect, let me move that because of time. All right. What does person mean? If you look at the psychological dictionary, person comes from, very interesting, from a Latin name called persona. And persona is a definition of the masks that actors used to wear those days, So what it means is that a lot of us, are known by the masks that we wear. Okay. Every individual is very, very unique. You have very unique qualities. First of all, the fingerprint is something that cannot be duplicated. Secondly, you have your DNA, which is unique to you. Okay? That creates the uniqueness that is in you. All right? Now, when we go back to knowing yourself, and if you have a paper and pen, please put this down. For those of you who've been seeking counseling services, I feel if you can just be attending these talks every now and then, you really don't need to sit in with a counselor. Okay, this will help you to be able to tackle those challenges that you're experiencing within your relationship. All right. Now, every individual has strengths. Every individual has weaknesses. Okay, so strength and weaknesses go hand in hand. And sorry, I'll just cut this short, just to ask anyone who's in the groups to post the new link. Kindly post the new. My phone will not stop ringing. If someone can just post in the women's group and another one in the men's group, please just post, because people are really sending me a lot of messages so that they can access the video. All right, the live video. So in every relationship, we have two people coming in together. As I said, you remain constant, but the other person is coming with their very own unique qualities. All right. Now, you as a person, you're strong and you have your weaknesses. You have your fears and you have your hopes. You have goals that you have put down with your spouse. All right. And you have failures that you have experienced together with your spouse. For example, there are those times maybe you've made the wrong investments. All right. And this has created a lot of push and pull, or probably created some, distance between you and your spouse. So the goals and failures are also part of the things that we are going to consider as we talk. There's also the personality and temperaments. Personality and temperaments are key in every relationship. I will emphasize and re-emphasize on these, guys. If you've not listened to my YouTube videos on temperament and personalities, please listen. I've really explained it in detail. I personally feel that a lot of the issues we are having in relationships stems from not understanding yourself, your personality, your temperament, because it brings in what I said earlier, your strengths and your weaknesses. For example, let me use myself. I know myself very, very well. As I said, I got married very young, stupid, with no knowledge at all. But over time, I choose to work on myself so that my relationship can grow. So I know that I am a choleric. My main temperament is choleric. No, some of the traits that cholerics have is that they are very quick tempered. They're very quick to invest in all this, any scheme that, it looks lucrative. They'll not think twice. They will go in, put a lot of money. Cholerics can be very impatient and they lose their tempers very fast. Okay, I will say this, though I'm not a narcissist, but cholerics are also more predisposed to to being narcissistic, because they have no, there's that aspect of not really having, feelings, for the other person. I tell you, you need to work on yourself, if you are a choleric. I have done it and it's not easy. All right. So what I'm saying is that anytime I'm handling or dealing with my spouse or my children, I am aware that it's very easy for me to say something that I will regret. So having been in that space where I have worked on myself, I'm very, very careful on how I say things, how I put things across. If you're going through a challenge where there are issues of communication, go back to the drawing board. Listen to my video, okay? Do a personality test. There's something called a personality test. And if you need one, my numbers are on the screen. Please let me know. I can actually email you, the quiz, so that you can be able to find out exactly what personality type you are. Now, there's a difference between personality and and temperament. All right, you need to know the difference, because when it comes to personalities, we are talking about the people who are feeling, the people who judge a lot, the people who think. And then when we go now to the temperament, now it brings it these other characters, of how we behave when we are pushed, how we behave when we are in certain environments. All right. So, I don't know. Is there anyone, Liz Moquino? I know you're sorry. I'll just interrupt these guys, but my phone is on fire. Liz, kindly post the new link to the ladies group. A lot of people are telling me the video is showing private. Please just post it so that they can join in. All right. Now, I was talking about temperament and personality. I will not dwell there because, guys, I have 1 hour. In 1 hour's time, I need to get ready and go to the airport. Now, there's the circle of influence. This is the support system that you have. Now, when I talk about the circle of influence, I will go down to source. Now, I talked about God, who is our creator. And I tell you, in my weakness, I always say I'll acknowledge my God in public, because he has held me in place in private when I was broken, when I felt that my relationship could not work. All right. So we talked about God being the divine creator. Now you have your parents. Okay, you have your siblings, and then of course in extension now we come to all these other systems where you have your community, you have your friends. All right. But again, guys, and I want to say you in capital letters, you remain right there in the middle. All right. You remain there right in the middle. And I ask again, who are your friends? Who are your friends? Because a lot of the issues, again, that we are facing in relationships is because we are moving with the wrong people. All right. Anytime I've been going through issues with my spouse and I go to someone who has issues with her spouse, I'm telling you, the kind of feedback or the kind of advice that I get is extremely toxic. You must be selfish to realize that if you mix with toxicity, if you allow yourself to be in spaces where there's a lot of toxicity or you're getting the wrong advice, your relationship will just be going down, every other day. How about looking for people who can mentor you? Part of the things that I've seen work, and I talk from a place of experience, is having someone to work with. My husband has had a mentor, I have my mentor. Whenever we have the push and pull, we have sat down with our mentors. They have talked to us, about these issues. Why? Because, of course, they are a journey ahead. Now, someone asked, do we have to have mentors who are old? No, I don't think it's a matter of age. What you need to know is about the experience. Someone who has been in a relationship for long enough to be able to guide you through the steps, to be able to guide you, as you walk that journey. Because it's, those people who have gone ahead, they're able to really come out and tell us, if this is the issue, if communication is the issue, this is what you need to do. But remember, again, guys, I keep on emphasizing, we are talking about you as an individual. I don't want us to be focusing on the spouse and saying, my spouse is the one who's doing this. No, what are you doing about yourself? Who is your mentor? Who do you go to when things are not working? Your circle of influence is very, very important. All right. Right now, we have people are coming out from the era of COVID where guys lost jobs and all that. All right. Now, COVID was a threat to many, many families. Why? Because, for one, we were all confined within the four walls of a home, and we just had to coexist. I have not been, there's no single time I've been in my house for a month. During COVID, I was grounded in that house for 7 months plus. That is the time that I realized, that I have not actually been really working on the relationships with my children. With my husband, yes, it's been there, but because of the traveling and all that, I realized that there was, I needed to work on that. So at the end of the day, you will always find opportunities, and there'll also be threats to the relationship you are in. But without taking proper, conscious, or intentional approach to this, you are headed for doom. You are headed towards failure. The place where you find you is called the place of awareness. It is not about your spouse. It is about you. The question then moves and shifts to, what is my role in this relationship? What is my personality, and how can I blend in who I am, so that I can make this relationship work? That is the first approach. You, not the other person. Okay, I see people coming in and they say, me, I'm just married to this man who is so manipulative. I'm married to a woman who will not stop whining. Why are you pointing fingers? Why are you pointing fingers? This is an equation: 1 + 1 coming to 1. All right, that is the equation of God. All right, but if you don't dance, if you don't take the step, how does the other person then change? You must change. I say change begins with you. When I was doing marriage classes, as I say, I've really invested in learning, and more so invested in becoming a better person in my marriage. One thing that I learned in one of these marriage classes is that you work on you as you pray for your partner. I will repeat that. You work on yourself as you pray for your partner. Listen, guys, we meet people when they're adults. Anyone who's over 20, I believe, is walking towards maturity. At 25, your brain is fully developed. Now, here is the scenario. You meet this woman, you meet this man, okay? They are of age and they get married to you. They have 32 teeth, all right? They had a life before you came into their lives, all right? Now, what makes you think that you can change that person? What makes you think that you can manipulate that person to a point where you will change them? If you're listening to me and this is you, if your personality is the one to manipulate your spouse, for us women, we love to shed tears. There are times I've shed tears and my husband just looked like, really? You're crying and you've just said something that is very insensitive, So what I'm trying to say is that never ever think that you have the ability to change your spouse. Change can only start when you begin changing you, because you are very imperfect as a person. All right, we lose it because we are always focusing. Why don't you do this? Why do we like to offer that kind of those terms? You do this and then I'll do this. If you can just love me more, I'll respect you. No, that is not the equation, guys. You have to learn to work on yourself. Now, I want to take you back to where our problems start as individuals, and this is part of understanding yourself. I'm not really going to go down again into the intricate details because I am because of time. However, should you be seated here and you want counseling services that have to to do with your relationship, maybe you're going through challenges and you feel you need to work on yourself, please take note of my number, reach out to me, and we'll talk more in length. Marriage is a journey that needs to be can I say, supported by a lot of knowledge. All right, so you need to keep on working. You just don't get into a marriage and you relax and you say, okay, we are going to have children and this is what. No, you need to be on a continuum of working on yourself, of getting knowledge, getting to know how best you can improve the relationship. Now, when our being today is a result of so many things. Key thing, we have an origin. As I said, we have a mother and a father. Within the family setup, there's something called the genogram. All right, now this genogram is a very interesting kind of chart that we do. It's like a tree where you put the mother, you put the father, you put the sibling, and then we come down and start assessing. Okay, How does your family look like? Who is alive today? So we will analyze that. We are able to see, how these patterns come in. Okay, who is addicted to drugs? We will put that. Tell me more. Okay, how many of your siblings are married? How many have children? Now, when I'm doing this, guys, I am basically going back into history, trying to understand your origin. Now, within our family setups, if you kind of like really, critically analyze, there are those of us who come from systems where divorce or separation is the order of the day. You look at your firstborn sister, married, got one child, divorced. Go down, my thirdborn sister who is married, or brother, married, divorced. So you already can see if that pattern is there. You remember when you talked about opportunities and threats? Now, that divorce is a threat. You need to first now approach and take care of this, because if it is a threat, if you don't deal with it, it is going to lead you to the same path that your other siblings, found themselves. So that means you again in capital, you must be aware of your family tree. Some of us come in and they, we talk about, alcoholic partners. All right. And you say, oh, this person was bewitched. It's not bewitchment. Sit down, analyze what we call the genogram. Okay. Check out these things. You will find in every generation, there are certain patterns that are coming out. Now, if we move this information and maybe use the spiritual approach, some people would say these are curses. But then we are not only just talking about curses. There are people who are blessed with long life. You find that your parents, live up to, 100 years, So we have to kind of like analyze our origin for us to understand where we stand. Okay? If you can be able to pick the patterns very, very well, there'll be no threat, because what you can see in front of you is very clear, and it makes it easier for you to be able to do what? To work on it. Now, anything that is hiding somewhere in the dark is what you need to now remove. Even the mind is very interesting. The brain is divided into three parts. So you have the conscious, the subconscious, and the unconscious mind. So the things that we don't want to really deal with, we push them to the corner, to darkness, where we can't see them, where we can't feel them, and that's called the unconscious mind. What happens within the counseling room is now what I'm bringing in, this knowledge, whereby now we try and retrieve those things that are hidden in the unconscious mind. We bring it to the conscious mind and we say, listen, Venus, or let me just use Michelle. Sorry, thank you for joining in, Rita. We tell you, by the way, are you seeing that one of the threats that you have is that you get married to narcissistic men? Are you seeing this trend that, in your family, there's an issue of children being born and, maybe just becoming very rebellious? You see, so anything that you're aware, anything that is in front of you is something that you can choose, make a choice on how to handle it. But anything that is behind you or hidden somewhere, it becomes very difficult to actually deal with it. So what I'm saying is that, guys, we must start also dealing with things openly when it comes to our relationships. We must choose. Don't hide these things. If your spouse is cheating, do not try to cover up, because this thing is going to come and bite you. It's going to come and destroy you. Bring it in the open. Look at it realistically. Okay? I remember someone who came in and they said, my spouse has a child, out of wedlock. Now, that is very, very painful, because you can imagine you're living life with someone, you're doing life with someone, and then you discover there was someone else, there's another baby, out there, So how do you then deal with this? The best thing is not to hide in denial, trying to say, oh, no, deal with it. Okay, sit down and discuss the way forward with your spouse. It's as simple as that. This is a situation. How do we approach it? Remember, as you're doing this, it is you that you're guarding. It is you. It is your feelings. It is your functionality that you're taking care of. It is not about the other partner. Whatever thing you do in the very relationships that you exist in, the approach is normally from a point of, I want to benefit. I want to be happy in this relationship. If you have the mentality of making the other person happy, you will be so drained. And one day you will drop down and just die, because you will go into serious depression when this person does not give you back the kind of love or commitment that you give them. Right? Now, we talked about our origin. I hope that has come out very clear. Allow me now to quickly delve into our experiences, right? Now, we are formed and shaped by our experiences. I've talked about people who come from a traumatic past, people who come from dysfunctional homes, where the parents were so violent, and I say this with a lot of sensitivity. There's also the issue of, being parented by a single mother. All right. There are also issues of watching siblings as you grow up, abusing drugs. Okay. So all these things affect us without knowing. Do you know that me? I always say, the door to your soul is your eyes. What you see first. So sometimes we see things and they injure us, they traumatize us. All right. And we keep quiet. We move on in life. We move to the next stage. You are raped. Something happens to you, or you used to have a very bad, house help. They used to beat you seriously. It interfered with your self-esteem. You never talked about it. You saw things, but you kept them hidden somewhere. Now, history repeats itself. Life comes in kind of like a circular shape, in a circular form, repeated patterns. So you find yourself with a man or a woman who has traits that remind you of someone who was in your life in the past. And there goes the trigger. There goes the threat. Now, let me say this. When we are courting, we bring in our best foot. We present the best, our best, our strengths. The weaknesses are always remaining somewhere hidden until we get into this marriage. Legally or by default, we are staying together. And then now, as you live, with this person on a day-to-day basis, you begin seeing the weaknesses coming out. All right. When these things are coming out, triggers begin to what? You start getting triggers. And whenever there's a trigger, there's a way you react to them. Now, some of us are carrying, a lot of weight, a lot of burdens on our shoulders based on where we have come from. Maybe we were so poor, everything. The experiences are ugly. All right. And we find ourselves in a relationship where our partner is expecting much from us. How are you able to love when the burden you're carrying on your shoulder is rejection? How are you able to function in a relationship, have even intimacy with your spouse when you are carrying a secret of being raped in the past? Ladies and gentlemen, we can never ever move forward in any marriage if we don't declutter. If you don't declutter, if you don't put that sack of, all these toxic experiences that you have had, you will not be able to function in that relationship. In fact, let me say this. A lot of us are living with spouses who are dysfunctional because their history has shaped them. They never got to a place where they can be able to say, I went through this and I was able to go for counseling. I was able to talk to someone. Decluttering. Yes, Wanjiko, I'm going to emphasize on it. Decluttering your heart, your mind. Very, very important. If you look at the analogy of you carrying a sack on your back and being told to run, you will not go far, because it will take a lot of your energy. That is the exact scenario we are having in relationship. You're coming into this relationship, you're carrying a sack of 100 kilos. and you want to go far. How can you go even past 1 year of your marriage when you have this very big sack that is draining you? Declutter your heart, declutter your mind. That becomes the first place of healing. Some of us are existing in cultures, and social spaces where, we were taught certain things. I hear people coming into the counseling room and they're telling me very weird things. In our community, a man cannot eat food that has been cooked by a house girl. In our community, a woman must do this. Very, 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 very funny belief system, guys. We need to agree that life has changed and we have evolved. Yeah, some of these things, yes, they had their own origination. Okay, but it's good to assess and see what works for you. Taking, for example, if both you and your spouse are working, does it mean that you as a woman comes from work and comes, you're more tired, you get into the kitchen to cook? No. Teamwork. 1+1=1. Get into the kitchen, prepare this meal together, spread that energy, so that you can sit down and bond. But if one person remains a slave in the relationship, and when I'm talking about this, I also mean in terms of finances. I don't know how you guys, deal with your finances. I've had ladies coming in and say, hey, my account is, my account and all that. We'll talk about this later. But what I always say is that if you're unified, if you can undress for your spouse to see your nakedness, then what else would you want to be hiding from this person? Because you'll return naked into that ground. So at the end of the day, you must be very, very intentional in how you're executing your role in a marriage. If you're bringing in the good vibe, there is no way you will get the wrong vibe or the bad vibe unless your partner is dysfunctional. Okay, so as we said, for those who are joining in, thank you, Shiro. We have to make sure that we are the ones who are determining what happens in that relationship. If you want to be happy, you must work towards that happiness. If you want that relationship to work, there's a role you have to play. Now, I've talked about our origin, what I call the family tree, and I've talked about, our experiences, right? And I've talked about our culture. Now, all these things, if you put them together, they're the different factors that make us who we are today. Okay? For those of you who watched my show, the Lingugi show, you'll realize I brought in my dad, and described him and how he used to parent us. And I really love him, all right? But remember, I borrowed from him. So some of these things, as I said, that we bring in from our past, from our origin, from our family tree, okay, will determine how we react in the marriage. If you used to see your mother packing, when things were, not functioning in that home, you will do the same. All right. So I always say we will borrow from our past, but it's a very intentional move. Okay. Let me just say this. Sometimes it's just, almost automated because that's the kind of defense mechanism that we have picked. But there are those people who tell me, I can never do what so and so did. I can never be, I can never make the same mistakes my parents made. What does it say? They've gotten to a place where they are aware that they are coming in from families that are being, threatened with one or two things. But they have decided their generation, right from where they are, that the generation that is going to come, the generation that is going to come is going to be different, right? Everything, let me say this, everything. I've analyzed people. As a psychologist, I love to really, really analyze behavior. And I will say this, there is nothing under the sun that is a coincidence. Even these people you see that, all of a sudden they become very successful. There's a history. They have worked. They have been very intentional about that journey. These things that we experience as we move towards relationship affects how we view life. All right? It affects how we view relationships. All right? If you were brought up in a home that was very stable, okay, and you meet this man who is very unstable, automatically you will not have tolerance for that man. Why? Your history, your past is shaping how you view life. All right. If you're the kind of person who, who used to go to church, all right, your mom always made sure that you're in church every other Sunday, you will find yourself doing the same thing to your children. All right. So, what I want to emphasize is that part of the things that I tell my clients when they're coming in for therapy is to go back. And if you're listening to me, and for those of you who will be catching up later, can you just sit down and go down to your family tree? Can you assess that tree? Can you check out the addictions? Can you check the divorce rates? Can you check all these things? Even diseases, diabetes, hypertension. This can really reveal a lot to you. Secondly, can you do the personality and the temperament quizzes? Can you get to know who you are? And then in extension, try and do this with your spouse. Get to know their personality, their temperament, because there's a way personalities also clash. Okay, there's something which I call the love languages. Do you know your love language? All right, because sometimes we find ourselves, doing so much for our spouses, but they don't seem to understand. Yeah, why are you doing this? Why are you buying me gifts? I don't want gifts, because that is not their love languages. Again, we find ourselves being done for things that we don't like. For example, someone gets for you gifts and you just don't like gifts. So how do you then deal with people when they do things that you don't like? Communicate. Darling, I thank you so much. You're giving me gifts, but unfortunately, I don't really resonate with gifts. Maybe try, being very affectionate. Maybe try, just doing things for me, taking the car to the garage, doing 1, 2, 3. Maybe just try and be affectionate. Do you know your love language? That is part of one of the things that we say you need to know to understand yourself. This life is yours. All right, this life is yours. As I said in the beginning, everything else is temporary. Even that spouse, God forbid, one day they may decide to walk away. Things happen. So you need to know that even if you're moved to another environment, you should be able to coexist in that environment. All right, so that is very, very important. Now, a lot of the people who are facing challenges today, and this is where a lot of us come in, we are facing a lot of challenges because kitu ya kwanza, I've even used Kiswahili. The first thing is that either we, and I'm pointing at myself, we are dysfunctional. So if you're dysfunctional, you're a trigger in so many ways to your partner. They're able to pick one or two things. I've had people say, this one, she comes, she can never be told anything. The moment you're having a conversation, she's defensive, so that process of communication doesn't work. So your partner takes a step behind. They decide, okay, you don't want us to talk. It's okay. Let us just coexist in this relationship. So one thing that I want to note, and that's why I emphasized on you first. If you're not functional, please don't run to the counselor to report your spouse. Don't run to, your pastor to report your spouse. Before you point a finger, make sure you know that you yourself, you're functional and you can prove it, and the best person to prove that and to even, state this is your partner. They should be able to say, okay, yes, my wife tries her best. She puts her best, her foot forward. Don't be lying. A lot of people, it's so interesting to see people saying, he's the one who's causing my unhappiness. He's even made me, become so depressed. Now I'm on, do you know, I see people taking depression tablets. And I know here comes trouble. Because what happens with those tablets is, yes, they will give you that high for the few days that you want to be high because you cannot deal with things realistically. And then going forward, you become dependent. Yet, if you just choose to work on this thing, this giant, this challenge that is in front of you, you can be able to avoid dependency on these medicines. All right. So, first of all, the problems that we are facing in relationship today is because a lot of us are dysfunctional. We are the ones who are abusive. We are the ones who are, narcissistics. We are the ones who are just lazy. We are the ones who are just not playing our role. All right. The second thing, of course, is the spouse. Now, it's very painful to have a dysfunctional partner. It is painful. And especially when you yourself are working so hard. You're bringing in the cash, you're cooking for this man, you're doing everything, or you're doing this for your wife, she's always packing and leaving. You're doing this, it's always met with frustration. So the question remains, what do you do when your relationship is not functioning and you feel it is not you who is triggering this relationship to take that direction, but your partner? Okay, so I'd like to hear from you. Maybe you can just comment. What would you do in such a situation? All right, because even me, from as I grew in my marriage, sometimes I used to think, okay, it's my husband who is making me behave or be the way I am, until one day I did a class on self-reflection, and I realized that I had a lot that I had kept in my mind, a lot of things that I had not addressed. And so I sat down and I wrote a letter to my husband. I really needed to forgive him. I needed to forgive myself. I needed to forgive my past. There was so much, guys. So I wrote, I think, a 10-paged letter. In fact, when I gave it to him, was like, my God, you hate me this much. That's the first reaction, because at that time we were not even talking. All right. So it's so important to declutter what is in your heart, as I said, and in your mind. Just get it out so that you can breathe. Just get it out. Now, me and this kind of people, of course, after doing my all research, I am very selfish within a relationship. What I always say is that me, I choose happiness. So if the other spouse is coming in with negativity, me, I'll be busy singing and doing what and doing what, because I am not leaving that relationship. Where am I going? I have to stay there. I have my children and I have purpose to be there. So I make an effort, first of all, me, selfishly, to be happy. And what that does is, whenever we are experiencing issues, I will always, signal my partner in many ways. There's a way I communicate to him that things are not okay. And in that way, I get a response. All right. Now, the third reason why we are having challenges, and I say this even as we started, is because we do not have the right support systems. We do not have the right support systems. Let me ask a quick question. Who do you go to when things are not working for you? Who do you go to? Who do you talk to? Do you just, run to a neighbor, run to a sister, pack and go and maybe rent a house somewhere, waiting for your spouse to miss you and to come for you? You must learn that counseling works. I'm not marketing myself, guys. I would love to market myself, but I'm not the only counselor. What I want us to grasp is that there's nothing as beautiful as sitting down with a professional, talking to them about your issues, and knowing those issues will never be shared with anyone, including your family members. Why? We work under certain laws, and one of them is privacy, confidentiality. Ours is to not only preserve your information, but to use it, make it turn around to work for you. So when I see people saying, we called our auntie, are they knowledgeable? Are they knowledgeable? Are these kind of people who you can call mentors? Learn to deal with your issues within spaces where they are professionals. Because if you can do that, then a lot of the stress that you are going through can become something that you and your spouse can see clearly. This is how we are. Did you know that people have cycles of, what I call domes? When you're having disagreements with your spouses, do you know there's a way we behave? There's a way each person behaves when that time comes. I call it the dance. You see, so once you are able to talk with these professionals, they bring into your awareness these patterns. So anytime this happens, you introduce what I call the short circuit. Okay, so I'll give an example, my own personal example, how I used to behave when I was younger. Now, in my mid 40s, almost 50 years, I am now dealing with this very differently. So, the first day, I'm annoyed. Husband, where are you? My husband is in the cave. We talked about the man cave. He's hiding there because he doesn't know how to relate with this woman who's choleric. So I go and knock at the husband cave. Husband, come out. Husband is in the cave, he's sleeping, he's snoring. Okay. Now, okay, you're not responding to me. I get annoyed. Now, I'm just trying to bring in now some of the patterns that, just as an example. So I get annoyed. The fire is increasing, the flames, the fumes, I'm getting more angry. Why aren't you talking to me? Why aren't you noticing that? So the first day, the second day, we are not talking. The third day, now depending on your personality, me, I used to be those kind of people who would even unfriend, block, you block, you report that number as spam, and all that. Yeah. So we are all different. We have very different ways of reacting, our defense mechanism. All right. Now, as you move forward, it gets worse. It gets worse because you have a wound. There's a wound in this relationship. And because both of you are not functioning well, both of you are dysfunctional. Okay. The wound now becomes what? Septic. Okay, now it was bleeding, but now it's moved beyond bleeding. Now it's even rotting because both of you are very proud. You decided, okay, we'll stay in this house. No one is talking to each other. We are dead. We are numb. We are not going to talk. You see? So at the end of the day, we have to make sure that we understand our pattern. So now moving forward from now where we are, the first day, husband, are you at the cave? Husband, awake. Yes, my darling, comes out of the cave. Now we are having issues. Okay, what do? We sit down and we talk. And the talk has to be done within a specific environment, your tone, what I call the non-verbals and the verbals. Very important. You cannot say, okay, let's sit down and talk, and you're screaming at the top of your voice. There's a way when we are handling issues. We must behave. We must have the right tone. Don't just, be shouting there and saying, no, we are solving this situation. You're shaking your head, you're pointing, yes, let's solve. You must be gentle because it's in as much as you're also hurting, the other person is hurting, right? Now, I know we are short of time, but I'll quickly just run through. Now, what I want to say is that dysfunctionality is now operating within the normal frame of a normal, human being. When it comes to a relationship, qualities of a relationship, there must be love, there must be team spirit, there must be respect, there must be patience. All these things, I always say they are the fruits of the Holy Spirit, right? So if someone is not showing these fruits, there's a level of dysfunctionality, right? And each one of us, let me say this, each one of us as individuals has those qualities. Now, guys, life will give you very many things, very many options. You will be hurt. And I want to say, you will be hurt. You will regret. You will be challenged. You will cry. You will suffer. But the same life that brings this thing, the same system that gives you these things is the same system that gives you an option to choose. You can choose to walk away from your relationship. You can choose to stay there and grow. You can water this relationship. If you look at a tree or something that is growing, right from the roots, sometimes we find that these crops get diseases. That is where the veterinary comes in, or whoever is in this, or these people do, they'll spray that plant. Okay? So it is the same thing. Anything that is growing, even a tree itself, some branches fall off. And when the branches are falling off, I normally like to say, these are the people you don't need in your life. Nature is very intelligent. Life is intelligent, and it can remove the people you don't need in your life. All right. So what I say is that when life is giving you all these things, all these things that you experience, it has also given you the ability to choose. Are you going to be patient? You wait and grow, or are you going to walk away? Now, I want to believe that a lot of us are almost at the brink of losing it when it comes to relationships. Because yes, relationships can end you up into a mental hospital. Because there's a way you just doubt whether you're normal. It gets to a point where you become so what do they say, you're so hurt that you're almost losing your mind. All right, but then it is also at this point where you decide to just choose your heart. I always say that, you decide the way forward, and it is you. Again, it is you. Once you're able to understand yourself, knowing what you like, knowing what you want, then it moves into an option of, can my spouse help? Can my spouse be part of this? You're bringing your spouse in. You're stating down your expectations. As you as an individual, he brings in his or she brings in hers. All right. And you sit and you say, these are my expectations. Can we be able to achieve this together? That is very, very important. You cannot be in a relationship that does not have any level of communication and you expect it to be great. One of the key aspects, and I always say communication is the heart of every relationship. You must learn to communicate your frustration from a place of understanding. Sometimes it takes you saying, honey, I know I have been weak. I know I have not been treating you well. I know I have not really been respecting you. I want you to be patient with me. I am working on myself. It's as simple as that. When you say certain things, it becomes a motivator to your spouse. They also play the role of becoming your accountability partner. Okay, I like it when my husband comes in, even when I'm doing these talks, whenever I'm going to present, he is seated somewhere in a corner taking notes to criticize me. And he tells me, Venus, you have done this and this wrong. You shouldn't have done 1, 2, 3. All right. And that is what we call teamwork. Now, if you're in a relationship and you're operating solo, that's a very, very dangerous thing. We need to start creating the change that we want. And it starts with us. So I want to ask you today, what are your fears? What are the challenges you are facing right now, today, here and now, as regards to your relationship? What is your strength? What can you bring into this relationship that can help your relationship to go on another level? Okay? Who are you as a person? Do you know yourself? All these questions. Once you're able to sit down and answer these questions, you're good to go. For those of us who are single, it becomes very, very easy to be able to pick out a man or a woman who is right for you. Why? You understand yourself. Now, not being aware of yourself, not understanding yourself, gives the other person a very difficult, kind of work or baggage, trying to discover this person. I always say this, even when you're making love, you should know which part of your body can respond. Some of us, maybe if you're touched on the hair, someone just brushing your hair, that is it. He's done it. You feel, yes, that is, There's some of us who just like to be tickled on our toes, So when someone, if you don't know yourself, this person will become exploiting, wasting time for you, and you're thinking, my God, I want to slap you because you're just pressing the wrong buttons. Self-awareness, self-understanding is very, very important. Extremely important. Why? You become the guide in a relationship. You are able to create the boundaries that you want. It's about telling someone, hey, I think now you're overstepping your boundary. Personally, I was really happy if we were taking this, but now because, you're engaging, in a certain way, I really feel that maybe we just need to stop, maybe give it a break, and then we can come back and talk later. You see, so knowing yourself helps you create the boundary. Knowing yourself now reveals to you your potentiality. How, there are people who are sitting on talent. Basically, you have never taken time to know you. There are people who are just gifted in so many things, but they never get time to sit down and see how this thing can work for them. Okay? And everything shifts when you become aware. That is the most important thing. Guys, I'm sorry I've exceeded this by 5 minutes, But I will end this talk there. Now, if you have any question, for me, please reach out. We've already put our contact there, our social media pages. If you're new to this channel, please go through the videos. I have been doing videos. I know people don't like, mental health stuff, but I always say, if you don't like it, then the problems, when problems come in, you'll not be able to handle them. I always say, take time. 30 minutes. Yes, I know we have all these other channels, but if you can just empower yourself, empower your children, that is the best investment that you can give to your generation, because the mind remembers. The mind remembers. Anything you do, anything you shift, will serve you positively or negatively. That said and done, I want to thank each one of you for being here today. I am so sorry we had to change our link, and I think I've really locked out a lot of people. But at the end of the day, we are doing this, we are learning. Next week, definitely, we will be better. So today we've done about the first pillar, and that is you, because you are in the center, you are at the center of everything. Next week, we are going to be talking about communication. Please don't miss out. All right. What I'm going to do within the women's group and the men's group that we have for on the WhatsApp, I'm going to post the quizzes, the temperament quizzes, so that you can be able to know yourself. So I'll continue this in the group. If you're not part of our groups, please reach out. I'll put you in the groups so that we can do this coming week. Just getting to know ourselves, and then also continuing to understand our spouses. So life is a journey. We must choose to grow. So thank you so much for being here. Allow me to end the stream now so that I can prepare and get back to Nairobi. So thank you and bye. Okay. George, I think you'll help me with this. I don't know how I'm going to do this, but yes, as I wait to end, let me just say thank you so much. I can see a lot of comments. And Karaoke, thank you. Inspired Soul, thank you for the enlightenment. Evelyn Mombi, ciao, yes, thanks for the session. Proby's health. Thank you. I've seen your comment. Linda Nava, thank you so much. And Karaoke, I've seen you. Santo, I saw you. You are the first one. Jane, Jerry, I've seen you. Thank you so much, guys, for the love, for the for just attending this talk. It's very, very encouraging. When I see crowd, it really motivates me to keep on doing the talk. So you can share this video once we are done. Invite your friends, like our page, and let's keep on going. Give me feedback on how I can make this better. Thank you so much. God bless you. Good night.